So let's take a look at how we can access Numicon online. So what you need to do is log on to your Oxford Owl UK website. So there's Oxford Owl in Australia and this is Oxford Owl in the UK. So that's where your Numicon online is hosted. So you will have received instructions when you've completed your subscription to then add teachers, and everyone will have their own login. Alright, so you can see here these are my subscriptions, and then further down we've also got the tiles. So there's a range of different ways that you can access different Oxford products that you've got subscriptions to. So we're going to click here on Numicon Online. So when we click on Numicon Online, that will then take us to this page, and there's a range of different resources that we can find from here. So the first one we're going to have a look at is the Numicon Interactive Whiteboard software. So when I click on that link, it then takes me to I can have a look at a video, and there's a user guide and some ideas, but I'm going to jump down here to the Interactive Whiteboard software, and I'm going to click on play. So I get to choose what whiteboard size I'd like to view this in. So you can have it a regular 4:3 whiteboard. I'm going to view it in widescreen, so I'm going to click on the widescreen option, and then it's going to bring me here to my Numicon software. So let's have a look at the features on the Numicon software. So down the bottom here you can see the Numicon shapes, and if I keep clicking across here you'll see the shapes go all the way up to 21. So you can see here, if I scroll across, if I wanted to bring, say for example 15 in, I could just click once on the 15 and it would bring both of those shapes in to make 15, or you can click on an individual shape. Now when you have an individual shape, so I'm just going to delete that one, I don't want that one, so I'm going to delete all of that. I'm just going to bring my 10 shape in. Now you'll see here when I have it selected, I can do a few things. I can rotate it, I can flip it, which doesn't make much difference for that, but let's bring the 7 in and have a look how we can flip that. So I can flip it horizontally or I can flip it vertically. You also have a undo function and a delete function too. So if something is selected, then you can delete it. Okay. So these are your shapes that you have here up to 21. You also have your Numicon rods. So if you wanted to bring those into your workspace, you just simply click on them and drag them across. You also have your base 10 apparatus. So this is a really great way to do lots of comparisons when you're looking at place value. You have a keypad if you want to put in numbers or if you want to type something in. And then we have a range of other resources, which we'll come back to in a minute. Okay, I'm going to come back here to my Numicon Shapes view, and I'm actually going to delete these ones. Okay, up the top here we have different workspaces, and these are really handy to simulate what you're doing with the manipulatives. So for example, say you're doing a baseboard activity, you can bring in your baseboard. And there's your baseboard there, and then you can see down here this is switched, the tabs are now different and it's got some pegs, so you can just simply click on these pegs and pop them on the baseboard. So you might be doing, for example, an addition problem, or you might be looking at building up your shapes, whatever it is. Okay, so I've got that there. I can also put counters if I wanted to put counters on my board, so I can put pegs on, or I can put counters on as well. All right, I'm just going to delete that counter. Okay, and then for example, I might be putting a Numicon shape over the top. So you'll see that the size of the board is the same as the Numicon shapes that come here out of the tray. So that's the baseboard, which is really handy. You can also choose different baseboards. For example, there's a decimal baseboard. Okay, so this is similar to the orange whiteboard baseboard that we have. So that idea that you have your one shape, and inside there you're looking through as if you're looking through a microscope, and through the orange one, you see the orange board, which is the 100 parts or the hundredths that make up that one shape. So that's a really nice visual aid for kids to understand. So that's the decimal board. You can bring in, for example, 2 boards, so it gives you the option to have 1 or 2 boards. You then have the number bond overlays, which are the paper overlays that you can put on. So we can see the number bond overlays here. And so there's a few different ones of those. There's 4, 5 and 6. So this is really good when you're talking about the part whole or part whole relationships of the numbers. So for example, the two parts that make up a 5, for example a 4 and a 1, so I can put my 4 over there and I can put my 1 over there. Okay, so it's matching the two parts that the two parts that make up the whole. Okay, so there's all those different baseboards, so that one goes all the way up to 10. So then I can be looking at the number bond baseboard up to 10, and then that one shows me the different ways that I can make 10. So this is looking at our number bonds of 10. Okay, in addition to that, you can also look at a picture overlay, which is just one of the samples that we have in the picture overlay pack that you can buy to put over the physical baseboard. So once again, this is about kids matching the shape to the picture. A really important part of this is it requires transformation. So for example, in order to put this one down here on the bottom right, I need to rotate it. So it's looking at, you can be starting to talk about language of transformation in order to fill that picture. Next workspace is a pan balance. So with the pan balance, this is really good in that it simulates what we would do with the pan balance that we physically would have in the classroom. Remembering that all the Numicon shapes are weighted. So for example, if I have a 5 on this side and I have a 4 and a 1 on the other side, then that will be balanced. Now, the important thing to remember is I can be using my shapes because they're weighted, and my Cuisenaire rods are also weighted. So you can be doing the same thing with your Cuisenaire rods. So you can do lots of nice activities that are looking at equivalence. And then when I switch, for example, this, and I pop this on this side, it's that concept that equals doesn't mean the answer, it means is equivalent to. So I can say 5 is equivalent to 4 and 1, or 5 equals 4 and 1. So it's switching the sides and the kids can still see that equivalence. Now if you wanted to delete these out of there, you would need to remove them out of the pan balance first, and then you can delete them. Okay. Now this activity is really also good for factors and multiples. So for example, we might be looking, let's pop in 12 on one side. And then we might be looking at all the different ways we can make 12. So I can make 12 with 2 6s. Okay, I would show all the different ways I can make 12, and you can see that they're balanced. Okay, our next workspace is a number rod track. So once again, this is simulating the number rod track that you could be using in the classroom. So we can bring our number rods in. You'll see that they come in automatically horizontally, which is handy, and then they just pop into the number track. So say for example, I was looking at 15 plus 3. I've got my 15, then I can bring in my 3, and there I can see it comes to 18. So this is really handy when you're modeling for the whole class before the kids go off and do their own activity. There are a range of different number lines. So these are number lines that we would also see in the physical format. So we're not going to look at all of these, but I'll just pick a couple. So the tens number line is one of my favorites. Let's start with that one. So as you can see, it always clears your workspace before it adds your number line or your particular resource in. And this is coming up as a blank tens number line. So when I bring my 10 shape in, you'll notice once again it comes in horizontally. So I might be looking at 18 plus 5. So I've got my 18. And we know when kids are coming across that decade, it gets really tricky. So I would like them to go back to their number bond knowledge of knowing 8 plus 2. Okay, so I'm now going to break this up into a 2, and then I can see that there are 3 more. Okay, so I've now broken my 5 up into a 2 and a 3. And I can put my 5 over the top. Okay, so now it's relying on that number bond knowledge to help them bridge over that decade. So as I said, there's a range of different number lines. The 0 to 100 number line. And this is another one that uses the Cuisenaire rods. So the Cuisenaire rods can come straight over the top. You can put them above or below or on top, wherever you like. There's other number lines such as the fraction number line, a vertical number line. So lots of different number lines. So have a bit of a play with those ones. Okay, the 100 square is next. Okay, so when I come in here, you've got a few options as to what you want to do. So you can either show or hide numbers, you can move rows, or you can color squares. So let's start with the show and hide numbers. So with this, I can simply click on each square and it will show a number. To do it quickly, I can just run my mouse over. So say, for example, I wanted to show just the first 3 cards. What I can then do is move the rows. So then I can move the rows across like this. So now I've gone from the vertical number line into a horizontal number line. I've also got some pegs. So say, for example, we were doing a counting activity, I could model putting all the pegs on, for example, the 3s counting pattern. So I'm just going to go 3, 6, 9. You can put the pegs on the card or above the card. I like to put it above the card so we can still see the numeral below, but that's up to you. So that's the show and hide number function and the move rows. And then you've also got the color squares number function. So for example, you might want to color the squares in pink or in blue. And I might be asking kids what numbers are behind the blue squares. Okay. So for example, if I did this and then turned off those 3 numbers, what numbers appear behind the blue square? Okay. And by selecting the numbers, they'll just simply appear again. So there's lots of activities you can do with this one. And counters are also available. Our next workspace is calculation boxes. So now you might be doing an activity, for example, with your shapes. So you might be looking at 7 plus 3 equals, and then I would want to actually put in my 7. If I come in here to my keypad and over to the right, I've got the option to put my numerals in here. So I can click on this box and pop my 7 in, click on this one, pop my 3 in. Then I might actually come back here to my shapes. I might move these around, rotate this one, find out what I think that adds up to. I might bring my 10 shape over to validate and check. So yes, I can see that 7 and 3 makes 10. And then I can come back in here into my keypad and then pop in 10. Okay, so that's that particular workspace. All right, the next workspace that we've got here are place value frames. So we've got hundreds, tens and ones, and then you can be using the base 10 apparatus to go into here, or the Numicon shapes, whatever you like. So there's a range of different ways you can use those. You can see there's quite a few there to choose from. We've got multiplication grids, sorting rings. So for example, I'll just jump on one of these. You've got sorting rings, so you've got a range of pictures here, for example, that you can bring on. So I might be looking at color or size. Scroll down here and select different pictures that I could then put in and then use in the sorting ring. So that's handy. You've got a Carroll diagram. So we use our Carroll diagram to organize data according to certain criteria. So say, for example, animals and food. So I might pick 2 colors. So I'm going to pick yellow. So if I type in yellow, I can then just drag that up to here. And let's say green. Pop that in there. And then I might have food. And animals. All right. So now when I go and have a look at my pictures, okay, I've got different animals and other characters I can bring in. So let's just bring in a range of different ones. Bring in the owl and some fruit. Okay. And then I might want the kids to come in and put them in their right categories. So I'm looking first for food that's yellow. I should have brought a banana in. And then animals that are yellow. So food that's green and animals that are green. There we go. So there's our Carroll diagram. All right. We have part, whole, number trio. Okay, so this allows me to look at my part, whole relationship of numbers. So let's put a number in the top one. So let's put one of our teen numbers for 15. Okay, and I might have a known part that is 9, for example. Okay, so let's look at how we could show that with our Numicon shapes. So I could come over here to 15. And if one of my known parts is 9, I could then put my 9 over there and see what I have left over. So if I put my 9, I can see that I've got one more to make my 10. And then I've also got a 5. So then if I put my 5 and my 1 together, I've got 6. So then if I look at my 15, I can do that in a couple of ways. So I can show it like this, and then I can bring my 10 and my 5, and I can see that they're the same. So I know that my missing part for this particular one is 6. Oops, so I can put it in as a Numicon shape, or I could put it in as a numeral. Or you might do both. So I might come back here and grab my 6 shape, move that across and put in my 9 shape, and move that across and then put in my 15. And our last one is a timetable square. So once again with this one, if I roll over the squares with my mouse, I can activate the numerals inside each box. I can also color squares. So say for example I'm looking at the 2s pattern and I color them like this, and then by selecting the show hide numbers and then clicking them again, I can then clear the numbers out. Okay, so then I can be looking at my tables. All right, now the other thing that we haven't looked at yet is the resources tab. So let's have a look at that now. So I'm just going to go back to a blank workspace. So click up here and go to blank and click on resources. So there's a range of different resources that you can bring in. So here you can see I've got my Numicon shapes, number rods, base 10 apparatus, and my keypad activated, and they're the ones that are ticked here. So this allows me to tick which resources I want to see in my tabs. One of the lovely ones that I like to use are the subtraction covers. So I'm going to take a couple of these other things off and select done. All right, so the subtraction covers allow us to show, as we would with the photocopier or master ones that you can cut up and laminate, allows us to cover over the part that we're subtracting. So with the subtraction covers, we're able to show the part that we're taking away. So for example, if we're doing 10 take away 5, I can bring in my 10. I can bring my 5 subtraction cover and just drag that and it will cover over. So I don't want to add in more shapes. I want to cover it over and I want to see what's remaining. So I can see that there's 5 remaining. If I wanted to double check that, I could bring my 5 shape in and just rotate that. And yes, I can see that the other part is a 5. So I now know that the 2 parts for that 10 are 5 and 5. So 10 take away 5 is 5. So with the subtraction covers, we've got subtraction covers that go 1 to 10 and they perfectly match the size of the shapes that you bring in over here from the Shapes tab. So the spinners are really handy, and there are a variety of different spinners that you can add on to your workspace. So let's pop in, for example, the Numicon shapes for 1 to 5 and 6 to 10. There's also colors. Okay, that's the 1 to 5 colors. Scrolling down here, you've also got numbers. So for example, you could have 0 to 5 or 1 to 5. Now I don't want all of these to stay on my workspace, so I can either delete these one at a time, or I can just select a few at a time and delete the lot of them. Okay, so I might be starting with this particular spinner, and I might come down here to the other, and then we might have the +1, -1. So I might be doing a whole class game. I click the spinner. Okay, all the kids take a 2 shape, and then we look at +1, -1. So now I'm going to take one away. What does that look like? Show me what I've got left, that sort of thing. So there's a range of different ones that you can be using there. So the resources tab has lots of different features. We've looked at the base 10 apparatus, the counters, the keypad. There are also numeral cards, so I'll just show you what that looks like. Okay, so the numeral cards here, you can have face up or face down. So you can also add random cards. So you can have them from 0 to 100 or 0 to 10. So let's look at the 0 to 10 set. And I'm just going to bring them in. If I bring them in face up, obviously they'll show the numeral. If I bring them in face down, we won't be able to see. Okay, and then part of the activity will be to flip the card over. Okay, so by clicking in the top corner on the flip icon, I can flip it both ways. I can also bring in a random card. So we might be looking at more than, less than. We might be looking at chance and data, and thinking about, do we think that this card will be more than 5 or less than 5, and getting kids to have a think of the chance of both of those. It's 3. Okay, we can reset all the cards. I might just take those spinners off. And as you can see, as I scroll there, you can do a whole lot of different sets for your numeral cards. Okay, it's also got our tens numbers, so we can just be looking at the tens. All of our 2-digit numbers from 10 all the way through to 99. We've got our odd numbers and our even numbers. So these are really, really handy as you're doing lots of activities. And just finally, we've got money. Now, you'll notice that we have pounds, euros, and dollars. Now, if you're using dollars, this is more to support the US market. So we get in a little bit of trouble here because we don't use 25 cents and we don't have a 1 cent piece anymore. However, it does have a gold $1 coin and a gold $2 coin. But you could bring in, for example, all of the dollar notes, 5, 10, 20, 50, and 100. So that supports our Australian currency. Okay, so that's all of the resources. I just also wanted to show you the grey shapes. So you can physically buy grey Numicon shapes. They're really handy for kids that have colour distraction issues or particular learning difficulties where they focus on the colour more than the value of the shape. So the grey shapes are handy in the physical form or in the online form to use for those particular kids. But also when you're looking at, for example, negative numbers, it's really handy to use the grey shapes. So you can show a positive and negative number line using the grey shapes, and they work in exactly the same way as the colour shapes do. Okay. So the other handy thing I can do is save this. So if I've prepared some of my workspaces earlier, rather than doing it in front of the kids, which can take a bit of time, I can save them here. So for example, this one I've called the 3s counting pattern. So I just type that in. I can put a description if I wanted to, and I can click save. So down here it shows you you've got 50 files and shows you how many of those you've used. There is one more feature I just wanted to show you, which is the draw feature. So if I click on the draw feature, it brings up pens and texters and erasers, and I can do that in different colors and allows me to write. So you can see you can just use that to annotate work. You've got different tools here, lines, and I can erase anything as well. Okay, so that's the draw mode. So most of the time you'll be in the move mode, but the draw mode is also there for you as well. And that's the Numicon online interactive whiteboard software.